Hi, this is Leanne, and welcome to your personalized review of 3 great foundation reports. Before we get started, I want to ask you a question. How are you preparing for what you're about to inherit? For me, I think the answer is twofold, that before we can set our goals and plan to put those into action to move our district forward, we really do need to know where we are. And this tutorial is about using 3 wonderful foundation reports to evaluate your district's clubs, help you then determine where they are, and then more importantly, use the data to develop strategies along with your district governor line and the DRFC to achieve those incremental successes that we're all looking for in the areas of the foundation. And these reports are great tools to do that. I really encourage you to think of them not as a tracking tool, but more as a planning tool. Let's get started with the District Fundraising Analysis Report. This is one of the most useful single-page foundation reports available to you as District Governor and to the DRFCC. You're going to see over 30 data points on here and then 5 years worth of cumulative data for your district. So let's make ourselves familiar with the real estate here. This column, as I mentioned, are the 5 years. For each of the 5 years, you have the number of members in your district. The blue area covers the annual fund, so you see the beginning goals entered, percent of goals achieved there, your total actual giving per capita, percentage of the goal achieved, and then your non-giving clubs. Same kind of configuration. This is for the Polio Plus, your goals, percentage achieved, your actuals, goals, and the number of non-giving clubs. This column represents the endowment fund, so any large outright gifts, name gift, term gifts that have come in during that respective year, and then finally the total giving, which would include any club cash towards grants. This area down here, you see the blue line, which would represent running accumulations all time for your district, and then the next rows would be the 5 most recent years with your Paul Harris Fellows, Benefactor, Bequest Society, etc. Numbers included there. Second area, you see the line that has the number of Paul Harris Society members and then your Rotary Direct participants. And that last arrow on the bottom of the page is going to be where you can find the number of points that your district has available. Foundation recognition points. And then the final third is obviously in graph form representing the annual fund measures, and I love, of course, seeing the positive slope to this line and the incremental increases from there. You'll also notice on here that there are bold numbers that appear. What that means is the staff has indicated the 5-year highs in each of those categories for you. And for me, that then brings up a question, and the usefulness of this report is I start thinking, who was the district governor that year? Who was the fund development chair? Were there any initiatives or campaigns that resulted in increased giving in that year in that category? Did you have any special events like $1 million dinner? Did the district sponsor a World Polio Day event? Something to that effect. Looking back, how else can you use this report? Let's look at those non-giving clubs. That seems to me to be low-hanging fruit, if you will. This district specifically, with the number of non-giving clubs for Polio Plus, in my opinion, has some great opportunity to identify who those clubs were, work with the AGs, work with the district Polio Plus chair, work with those clubs, Polio Plus chairs, to really understand and educate and motivate them to have them participate in supporting this worldwide effort to eradicate polio and have them be a part of history doing that. I think great opportunities there. How else might we use this report going forward? But again, I mentioned the number of points you have available if you were going to do a campaign to increase the number of Rotary Direct members then and give them matching recognition points, for example, or if you were going to take these nearly 300 Rotary Direct current members and ask them to bump their contributions by 10%, and you could, thank them with recognition points. Also, I want to point out the Paul Harris Society members here at 128, but if you look up here in this column, the Paul Harris Society eligible, in the prior year there was 179. So what that means is that there's been 179 Rotarians who have donated at least $1,000 to either the annual fund, to Polio Plus, or to a global grant, yet they haven't filled out the paperwork to declare that they are part of the Paul Harris Society and then receive the appropriate recognition for that. So it might be very appropriate you pull up a different report for this to identify those people, use it to thank them for their benevolence, educate them on being a part of the Paul Harris Society, and increase those donors there. So some great opportunity for that as well. So in summary, using this district fundraising analysis, I asked you to consider, how can you use it to motivate your clubs or motivate your team? How can you use it to set meaningful goals going forward? And then how are you going to build on those incremental successes based on some of those 5-year highs? And overall, I asked you the question, does this report add clarity to your view of your district's clubs and what they're doing relative to their foundation giving? Next, we're going to take a look at the DDF available by district report. Through our annual fund share program, Rotarians make their contributions to the annual fund, and those are turned into grants for local and international projects, our global scholars, and activities like our vocational training teams. The contributions received are divided between the World Fund and District Designated Funds, or DDF. At the end of a 3-year cycle, your district can then use those DDF funds to pay for the foundation or club or district projects of your choosing. Up to 50% of the DDF must go towards district grants, and the rest would be for global grants, your Polio Plus, and your Peace Centers, or in fact, you can gift those to another district for their projects. So let's take a look at the real estate here on this particular report beginning in the upper left-hand corner. I pulled this for the 17-18 Rotary year, and you notice here that 3 years prior, this is where after the investment cycle, 50% of the donations from your Rotarians will come back to your district as district designated funds, or this 212,794. You also have 50% of any earnings that were made off of endowment monies. This district is getting nearly 3,700 there in this year, and then any carry forward from the prior Rotary year, so the 16 and 17 in this case, nearly $100,000 rolled over. So their beginning balance was a little over 315,000. Looking at the transactions, the debits and credits down the page, they made a decision to donate $25,000 in DDF to Polio Plus. They did $25,000 into the endowment fund. Then you see their district block grant and 6 global grants that have been funded. And then, a little bit of money came back from a district grant here. So their anticipated amount to be rolled forward would be the 92.5. Looking at another report, I pulled up this one specifically to show you this district is receiving almost $17,000 in DDF just off of the interest earnings from their very generous Rotarians who have tagged their endowment to the annual fund share. What a great opportunity and what a great legacy for our Rotarians to be able to do that. And we haven't had to make one phone call, ask for one pledge card, or collect any money. That is just automatic interest earnings on here. So consider that as a great opportunity going forward and working with your endowment chair that will help with your DDF going forward. Again, looking down the page, this district made a $10,000 DDF donation to Polio Plus. You see their district block grant here, and then they're a very active district with many global grants going on, and so you'd see the anticipated amount of a little over $118,000 for the next Rotary year. And lastly, I pulled this as an example because there's quite a bit going on in this page. One, this district isn't receiving any interest, so that's missed opportunity there. You see project funding for their district block grant along with 2 global grants. Then you see there are 2 global grants with tagged DDF. They haven't been approved nor funded yet. And then as you work your way down the page, there are some global grants that are in draft form that would be pending any allocation. So they have earmarked that money is not, the DDF is not available. So you look at the unallocated DDF estimated balance that would be rolling forward there. So I really encourage you to pull your district's reports, and you can actually pull ahead to look at if you're going to be district governor next year, you can look at what your projected DDF balances are going to be. So in summary, I'd ask you to consider when you do look at those reports, is giving to your annual fund affecting your DDF allocations, and if so, how? And are Rotarians in your district participating in grants, or are you seeing DDF beginning to accumulate now that we're 5 years into the new grant model? And will your district be able to gift any DDF to the Peace Centers or to Polio Plus based on your DDF allocations and how your Rotarians are using them? The last report we're going to take a look at is called the Club Banner Report. I think Rotary is really good at thanking individuals for our donations, and there are multiple individual recognition opportunities. But we can also recognize clubs and club leadership every year with these club recognition banners. So I really ask you to consider that. There are 3 annual recognition banners. The final certification for which clubs qualified will be processed each year by the foundation staff following the close of the Rotary year. And then those banners are going to be shipped to your sitting district governor each fall. So I would say we can anticipate for last year, October, November of this Rotary year, those will be arriving for distribution. As I mentioned, there are 3 banners: the 100% Foundation Giving banner, the 100% EREY, and the 100% Paul Harris Society Club. Now, there are a couple of additional banners. Each year, the governor will have an opportunity to recognize the top 3 per capita giving clubs in each district. And then there's a one-time Paul Harris Fellow Club. So a club that has 100% Paul Harris Fellows will receive a banner one time, and then the expectation is that they will maintain that level going forward. So let's take a look at the report itself and get familiar with some of the data it contains and how it's laid out. I will tell you that I've blocked out the rows, this column here, which is the individual clubs, just to maintain confidentiality here. The columns across, you're going to have for each club and your district, the total, the membership as of July 1. Then you have your annual fund per capita giving. The third column in is the average foundation giving, and then you have existing active Rotarians. So what's the difference here between the first column and this one? So this one here, is counting active Rotarians who have paid their dues and were members prior to the July 1 start date. And this is the number that's used to calculate these percentages in every column to the right. For the annual fund per capita, they are using this July 1 number. As we continue to read across the columns here, I mentioned the foundation giving Rotarians, then that percentage, then you have the if they qualified for the foundation giving banner. Next column over, the EREY Rotarians, that percentage, and if the club qualified for the banner. You can see when that qualification is hit, then a Y appears in that column. This club here did hit both the 100% foundation giving and the 100% EREY club. To do that, what that means is that there was a $25 contribution from each member in the club minimum, and then $100 average for the club in any giving to the foundation, and the EREY, $25 minimum donation by each member and 100% average, but that's just specific for the annual fund. So what else can we do with this report? Let's take a look across this top here. I'm just going to pick this first club. They have membership in the high 50s. And as we read across here, you can see that only about a third of those members are donating to anything in the foundation. But as we continue to look across, we can see of the 19 that actually 14 of them are only giving to the annual fund. So this is great opportunity for you to work with your AGs, work with the club presidents on expanding the opportunity to donate, for example, to Polio Plus and be a part of history and eradication of the polio disease. You can also download this report and sort it on an Excel spreadsheet. So then you can group by club size, by AG area, and again, work with those sister clubs to motivate them to receive the recognition that they deserve. I also want to point out what can influence the numbers on this page, because it is a dynamic report depending upon when you pull it. And that's when the funding is coming in. Whether it's a Rotarian donor, whether it's a non-member, whether it's a club itself donating, or whether it's actually a donation from an organization, all those numbers impact this and will, of course, affect the per capita calculation. So in any given year, you might see some differences there because of that. So, in summary on the banner report, I'd like you to consider, how can you use this banner to motivate your clubs? If you're an E, you might want to work with your presidents-elect coming into their president's year and their boards to motivate their club to receive recognition with one of these banners. And how might the numbers be affected in a given year in your clubs, depending upon what's going on? And then lastly, does the data change your perception of your district's clubs? So in closing, I guess again for your consideration, I pose two questions to you. How will you support your team in getting the resources like these reports and then the skills for them to use them effectively? And the second one, how will you use these reports to inspire your foundation team to support your clubs in giving and participating in the programs of the Rotary Foundation? It's a little food for thought there. So to wrap up, thank you so much for your time. I hope this really truly was helpful for your planning purposes. I really do encourage you to pull up your district's reports and spend some time getting a solid idea where your clubs are and where your district is relative to the foundation programs and the relative giving. I have included a separate link for you to answer 10 questions about your district using the 3 reports that we've just reviewed. I included that in the Monday mail. Please have those recorded by August 27th. That way you're going to be finished before the next Monday mail arrives, and we'll just keep your inbox clean. I will let you know when the next webinar is scheduled. We're planning on it being 30 to 45 minutes in length, and we're going to cover a myriad of foundation topics of your choice, and we'll give you an opportunity to ask any questions and get any questions or any topic, that you have cleared up. So I'm really looking forward to our time together in Reno in November, and until then, bye-bye.